The religion of the Vedic period was the religion of the Indo-Aryans of northern India. It is a historical predecessor of modern Hinduism, though significantly different from it. The Vedic liturgy is conserved in the mantra portion of the four Vedas, which are compiled in Sanskrit. The religious practice centered on a clergy administering rites. The complex Vedic rituals of Rota continue in coastal Andhra. Scholars consider Vedic religion to have been a composite of the Indo-Aryan and Harappan cultures. Origins. The commonly proposed period of earlier Vedic ages dated back to 2nd millennium BCE. The Vedic religion was the religion of the Indo-Aryans, and existed in northern India from c. 1750 to 500 BCE. The Indo-Aryans were a branch of the Indo-European language family, which originated in the Kurgan culture of the Central Asian steppes. The Vedic beliefs and practices of the pre-classical era were closely related to the hypothesized Proto-Indo-European religion, and the Indo-Iranian religion. According to Antony, the Old Indic religion probably emerged among Indo-European immigrants in the contact zone between the Zaravshan River and Iran. It was a syncretic mixture of Old Central Asian and New Indo-European elements, which borrowed distinctive religious beliefs and practices from the Bactria-Marjana culture. At least 383 non-Indo-European words were borrowed from this culture, including the god Indra and the ritual drink soma. According to Antony, many of the qualities of Indo-Iranian god of might, victory, Varithrana, were transferred to the adopted god Indra, who became the central deity of the developing Old Indic culture. Indra was the subject of 250 hymns, a quarter of the Rig Veda. He was associated more than any other deity with soma, a stimulant drug probably borrowed from the Brahmasi religion. His rise to prominence was a peculiar trait of the Old Indic speakers. The oldest inscriptions in Old Indic, the language of the Rig Veda, are found not in northwestern India and Pakistan, but in northern Syria, the location of the Mitanni kingdom. The Mitanni kings took Old Indic throne names, and Old Indic technical terms were used for horse riding and chariot driving. The Old Indic term Artya, meaning cosmic order and truth, the central concept of the Rig Veda, was also employed in the Mitanni kingdom. Old Indic gods, including Indra, were also known in the Mitanni kingdom. The Vedic religion of the later Vedic period coexisted with local religions, such as the Yaksha cults, and was itself the product of a composite of the Indo-Aryan and Harappan cultures and civilizations. David Gordon White cites three other mainstream scholars who have emphatically demonstrated that Vedic religion is partially derived from the Indus Valley civilizations. The religion of the Indo-Aryans was further developed when they migrated into the Ganges plain after c. 1100 BCE and became settled farmers, further syncretizing with the native cultures of northern India. Textual history. Texts dating to the Vedic period, composed in Vedic Sanskrit, are mainly the four Vedic Samhitas, but the Brahmanas, Aranyakas and some of the older Upanishads are also placed in this period. The Vedas record the liturgy connected with the rituals and sacrifices performed by the 16 or 17 Rota priests and the Purohitas. According to traditional views, the hymns of the Rig Veda and other Vedic hymns were divinely revealed to the rishis, who were considered to be seers or hearers of the Veda, rather than authors. In addition, the Vedas are said to be Aparasarya, a Sanskrit word meaning uncreated by man, and which further reveals their eternal non-changing status. Characteristics. Rituals. The mode of worship was worship of the elements like fire and rivers, worship of heroic gods like Indra, chanting of hymns and performance of sacrifices. The priests performed the solemn rituals for the noblemen and wealthy commoners. Vaishyas. People prayed for abundance of children, rain, cattle, long life and an afterlife in the heavenly world of the ancestors. This mode of worship has been preserved even today in Hinduism, which involves recitations from the Vedas by a Purahita for prosperity, wealth and general well-being. However, the primacy of Vedic deities has been seconded to the deities of Puranic literature. Specific rituals and sacrifices of the Vedic religion include, among others, the Soma rituals, which involved the extraction, utility and consumption of soma, the Agnishtoma, a soma sacrifice; fire rituals involving oblations, the Agnihorta or oblation to Agni, a sun charm; the Agnikayana, the sophisticated ritual of piling the fire altar; the new and full moon, as well as the seasonal sacrifices, the royal consecration sacrifice, the Ashvamedha or a yajna dedicated to the glory, well-being and prosperity of the Rashtra, the nation or empire, the Purushamedha. The rituals and charms referred to in the Atharvaveda are concerned with medicine and healing practices. The Hindu rites of cremation are seen since the Rig Vedic period, while they are attested from early times in the cemetery culture. There is a late Rig Vedic reference invoking forefathers both cremated and uncremated. Pantheon. Though a large number of devatas are named in the Rig Veda, only 33 devas are counted, 11 each of earth, space and heaven. The Vedic pantheon knows two classes, devas and asuras. The devas are deities of cosmic and social order, from the universe and kingdoms down to the individual. The Rig Veda is a collection of hymns to various deities, most notably heroic Indra, Agni the sacrificial fire and messenger of the gods, and Soma, the deified sacred drink of the Indo-Aryans. Also prominent is Varuna and the group of all gods, the Vishvadevas. Philosophy. See also Philosophers of Vedic age. Vedic philosophy primarily begins with the later part of the Rig Veda, which was compiled before 1100 BCE. Most of the philosophy of the Rig Veda is contained in the sections Purusha Sukta and Nasadiya Sukta. Major philosophers of this era were Rishis Narayana, Kanva, Rishabha, Vamadeva, and Angiras. Ethics. Satya and Artya. Ethics in the Vedas are based on the concepts of Satya and Artya. Satya is the principle of integration rooted in the absolute, whereas Artya is the expression of Satya, which regulates and coordinates the operation of the universe and everything within it. Panikar remarks, Ta is the ultimate foundation of everything, it is the supreme. Although this is not to be understood in a static sense, it is the expression of the primordial dynamism that is inherent in everything. The term is inherited from the Proto-Indo-Iranian religion, the religion of the Indo-Iranian peoples prior to the earliest Vedic and Zoroastrian scriptures. Asher is the Avestan language term for a concept of cardinal importance to Zoroastrian theology and doctrine. Conformity with Artya would enable progress, whereas its violation would lead to punishment. The term Dharma was already used in Brahmanical thought, where it was conceived as an aspect of Artya. The concept of yajna, sacrifice, is also enunciated in the Purusha Sukta, where reaching the absolute itself is considered a transcendent sacrifice when viewed from the point of view of the individual. Post-Vedic religions. The Vedic period is held to have ended around 500 BC. The period after the Vedic religion, between 800 BCE and 200 BCE, is the formative period for Hinduism, Jainism and Buddhism. According to Michaels, the period between 500 BCE and 200 BCE is a time of ascetic reformism. Musa discerns a longer period of change, namely between 800 BCE and 200 BCE, which he calls the classical period. This was a time when traditional religious practices and beliefs were reassessed. The Brahmins and the rituals they performed no longer enjoyed the same prestige they had in the Vedic period. According to Musa, some of the fundamental concepts of Hinduism, namely karma, reincarnation and personal enlightenment and transformation, did not exist in the Vedic religion, developed between 800 BCE and 200 BCE. Indian philosophers came to regard the human as an immortal soul encased in a perishable body and bound by action or karma to a cycle of endless existences. The Vedic religion gradually metamorphosed into the various schools of Hinduism, which further evolved into Puranic Hinduism. However, aspects of the historical Vedic religion survived in corners of the Indian subcontinent, such as Kerala, where the Nambudiri Brahmins continue the ancient Rota rituals, which are considered extinct in all other parts. Post-Vedic Hinduism. The Hindu samskaras go back to a hoary antiquity. The Vedas, the Brahmanas, the Greya Sutras, the Dharma Sutras, the Smritis and other treatises described the rites, ceremonies and customs. The worshipping rituals developed in such a way that a formal distinction was maintained between Rota rites, which were necessarily performed by priests, and Griha rites, performed by the Aryan householder himself, but both the latter and the former were subject to priestly influence. Some domestic rites became almost indistinguishable from the priestly Rota sacrifices, and, even where older ceremonies were retained, they were usually interwoven with elements of the priestly ritual. Vedanta. Vedic religion was followed by Upanishads, which gradually evolved into Vedanta, which is regarded by some as the primary institution of Hinduism. Vedanta considers itself the purpose or goal of the Vedas. The philosophy of Vedanta transformed the Vedic worldview to monistic one. This led to the development of tantric metaphysics and gave rise to new forms of yoga, such as Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. There are some conservative schools which continue portions of the historical Vedic religion largely unchanged. Of the continuation of the Vedic tradition in a newer sense, Jean-D. Fowler writes the following. Bhakti. The Vedic gods declined but did not disappear, and local cults were assimilated into the Vedic Brahmanic Pantheon, which changed into the Hindu Pantheon. Deities arose that were not mentioned or barely mentioned in the Veda, especially Shiva and Vishnu, and gave rise to Shaivism and Vaishnavism. Interpretations of Vedic mantras in Hinduism. The various Hindu schools and traditions give various interpretations of the Vedic hymns. Mimamsa philosophers argue that there was no need to postulate a maker for the world, just as there was no need for an author to compose the Vedas or a god to validate the rituals. Mimamsa argues that the gods named in the Vedas have no existence apart from the mantras that speak their names. To that regard, the power of the mantras is what is seen as the power of gods. Adi Shankara, an 8th century CE philosopher who unified and established the main currents of thought in Hinduism, interpreted Vedas as being non-dualist or monist. However, the Arya Samaj new religious movement holds the view that the Vedic mantras tend to monotheism. Even the earlier mandalas of Rig Veda contains hymns which are thought to resemble monotheism. Often quoted isolated Pada 1.164.46 of the Rig Veda states, Indra Mitram Varuna Manamahurado Divyasa Supano Garutman, Ekam Sadvipra Bharata Vedantyagam Yamam Mataras Vanamahu. They call him Indra, Mitra, Varuna, Agni, and he is heavenly nobly winged Garutman. To what is one, sages give many a title. They call it Agni, Jama, Mataras Van. Moreover, the verses of 10.129 and 10.130 deal with the One being. The verse 10.129.7 further confirms this. Ayum visti yatrababhuva yadi Virginia dada yadi Virginia na ya asya adjukiparame vioman sah angaveda yadi Virginia na ve.It.The. The first origin of this creation, whether he formed it all or did not, he who surveys it all from his highest heaven, he verily knows it, or perhaps even he does not. Sramana tradition. The non-Vedic Sramana traditions existed alongside Brahmanism. These were not direct outgrowths of Vedism, but movements with mutual influences with Brahmanical traditions, reflecting the cosmology and anthropology of a much older, pre-Aryan upper class of northeastern India. Jainism and Buddhism evolved out of the Shramana tradition. There are Jaina references to 22 prehistoric Tirthankaras. In this view, Jainism peaked at the time of Mahavira. Buddhism, traditionally put from c. 500 BCE, declined in India over the 5th to 12th centuries in favor of Puranic Hinduism and Islam.